Welcome to the Introbiz Global Summit, Tara. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Hey, Tracy. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all, Tamara. But it's great to have you here. So I just want to tell everybody a little bit about you. I know we got introduced by Anil Gupta. Obviously, you've been on Clubhouse. I'm on Clubhouse. And I think Anil met you on Clubhouse. And he said you need to connect to this wonderful woman. So ladies and gentlemen, Tamara Loehr has generated more than 40 million in online sales in the past 5 years, alone selling beauty and wellness products. She is a globally recognized and award-winning entrepreneur, including a Gold Stevie Award in New York for Fast Growth, Fast Starter Top 20, and the third place in Smart Company. She is known for her ability to get brands from startup to over 10 million in 2 years with a 15% profit. Her focus is with online sales direct to consumer. Tamara is an animal and nature lover, Australian, and a mother of 2. She is a member of the Young Presidents Organization in Hollywood, which is an alumni student of the infamous program Birthing of Giants, and has appeared on QVC Home Shopping. Her book, Balances BS, How to Have a Work-Life Blend, is an Amazon best-selling release with over 200,000 followers online. Amazing. She has founded Beuseil to fulfill her purpose, which is to create 10,000 female entrepreneurs, generate 10 million impacts per year to the United Nations Sustainability Goals. And she believes that entrepreneurs will solve the world's problems, not governments. She stands for business for good, with giving embedded as a cost of good. So Tamara, welcome to the Introbiz Global Summit. It's great to have you here today.
Wonderful to be here and support you. I love everything that you're doing.
Thank you. So just tell us, Tamara, where your entrepreneurial journey started.
Look, I'm a big believer, like Gino Wickman says in his latest book, Leap Entrepreneur, that being an entrepreneur is in your DNA. Absolutely. I didn't know what it was, though. I'm a third-generation coal mining family, so no one changes jobs, let alone starts their own business. So without knowing it, I automatically had that in my DNA and was, saw it in school when I was, stepping up for student council and for school leader, and more importantly, taking on a lot of the fundraising projects. And I just looked at it differently. While everyone else was labelly, they're in the kitchen baking stuff, I was more thinking about strategic alliances and going to local shops and saying, donate this much stuff, and in return, I'll put this in your window, and, already doing deals at an early age, but, to serve other people, not to serve myself. So, to me, that was really important. And then the second one was, go to uni. I did really well at uni and, marketing. Graduated and went into a business, and they were charging me out at like $200 an hour when I was 19 years old. And, my pay was about $12 an hour. So, it didn't take much for an artist to do the sums and go, well, this seems a bit shit. So
I love it. Yeah.
And then how long is this going to take me until I can increase my wage, which seemed like forever. Yeah. So, I think I lasted 6 months and went, well, all I need is one client and half a day's work at $150 an hour, and I'm already doing more than what I'm doing now. But of course, being a serial entrepreneur, I started with one client and ended up with, a massive agency. So yes, it's interesting how the journey evolves.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. So obviously you started with the marketing agency, and how long did it take you where you really started to see great success?
Look, I think, I guess to find success, I'm kind of always, drawing bigger circles and putting myself into challenging situations where I'm forced to grow. But for me, my first goal was to replace my income, obviously, which wasn't hard to do. And then, the second thing was to get to $1 million. And what you want in your 20s versus your 30s and now into my 40s is completely different. So for me, it was, could you imagine if I had an office and I had all these staff and I had this great, corner office and clients and could travel the world and all that sort of thing. So that was my first goal. But, your first million takes the longest and is the hardest. So, getting out of my own way, understanding and learning business on the go, because I didn't have any business experience. So I was doing a lot of it on my own. Nothing. It was just like, make it up as you go. I was reading a lot of books, like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read when I was quite young because I thought, I need to do something to shift my trajectory. So I remember reading that and buying property. And, I think I was 24 when I built a block of units in the city overlooking the river. Like I was doing all these things. So yeah, first million was the hardest. And then when I found my tribe, which was Entrepreneurs Organization, and then I got access to all their learnings and, just you don't know what you don't know. And just being around those sorts of people, being in the top 1% of people, then shifted me. I was at 10 million within 2 years. And then from there, I got into YPO, and it just, it keeps growing. Your network is your net worth, but it's not network as in to do deals with those people, even though, because there's no solicitation in those organizations. The gold is in what you don't know, and the games that they're playing and how they're playing it, and just having that filter of going, how does this apply to me and how can I implement this for myself? Because at the end of the day, I'm a country girl from Australia and I'm in the YPO Hollywood chapter. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, that's amazing. It's incredible. It's, it's such a, an accolade to be able to, to say that you're part of that. It's just amazing. So how long did it take you to get, to really scale, and what strategies did you use to scale your business?
The first thing that I did to scale was go very deep and narrow on a market. So whilst all the other ad agencies were chasing the big accounts, I'm a big believer in doing the opposite. So once, I realized that strategy was critical for me to get to $1 million, I spent a lot of time sitting down and going, okay, what's everyone else doing and how can I do the opposite? And whilst they're all chasing the McDonald's and the sexy Nike accounts and all that sort of stuff, where's the clients that are unsexy that I can go and serve that don't care about budget, are loyal and almost compliance driven. So how do I make this sticky so that they're required to be reporting and doing all that sort of stuff? So I think it's really important for you to look at, how can you carve out something very deep and narrow and own a space so that then you just turn up to those conferences and you become the expert in that industry. And then it's not price driven. So that was a huge shift for me. And once I stood for that and really went after that, we had massive global clients in no time. But the funny thing was, if I can let you in on a little secret, they'd always say to me, go back to your boss and come back to me with a proposal. And so, because, I was 20, in my early 20s, and I go, sure. So I go back and have a little meeting with myself. And then and it was funny because it was about 4 or 5 years in that we were at some conference. We're actually in Parliament House. I was doing some work with some lobbying, and they said to me, I'm at the table with all these CEOs of billion-dollar companies, and they go, there's no boss, is there? And I said, well, you're the one who made that person up, and let's just give some thought as to why you would do that. And it was because of my age and because I was female. So firstly, they were like thinking they were calling me out on being dishonest. And I said, I never said that there was a boss. You're the one who made them up based on some preconceived idea around my capabilities. So anyway, I think that's a funny story.
That's hysterical. That's so funny. And actually marketing agencies, most of them are run by men, aren't they? It is quite
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a man industry rather than females. So, I mean, were there any other challenges?
Industry is exactly the same. Like all the industries that we should own because we're highly creative, we don't. Yeah. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, exactly. So, did you have many challenges when, obviously you're such a successful entrepreneur, and I know in Clubhouse you've actually, I think I've heard you say, yes, I'm a 10-figure entrepreneur. And some of the men. Because there's a lot of egos in there. There's a lot of egos that that goes on in business, full stop. Anyway, especially with men. Sorry, guys, but
and with women, it's just how they show up. But yes, tends to be that old generation, of businessmen. But they're not all like that. But
no,
I think their drive is a little bit different, and I don't think that those drivers resonate with us. It's all about money, more money. My jet, my fast car, I've got a lump of cash here, this whole Gary V hustle. If you're not, doing this, then, but I don't think they understand and put it into context that that's not how women work. That's not our thing. It doesn't seem natural to us to sell. It doesn't seem natural for us to hustle. And that's not the only way to do it. and you keep getting told that this is the way to do it, and if you're not doing it, then you're not showing up. Well, hang on a second. Let's just put it in perspective. Yeah. Your values might be money and constant affirmation, external affirmation. But for women, a lot of the things is around purpose and serving others and showing up and doing it with integrity and being able to sleep at night and all these sorts of things. Absolutely. So for me on Clubhouse, it's all been around, how do we do that and how do I do that? In an environment that is kind of, the people that are speaking the most are usually the ones that talk in that sort of vein. And I just find that so 1980s, how to run a business, to be honest. Yeah. And I went head to head with somebody which ended up in huge messages. I woke up to a Clubhouse room in my honor. It was more around saying, hey, why are we talking about me? Why aren't we talking about we and the power of Clubhouse if we were to join forces and all help the next generation of entrepreneurs, not sell to them, just be there to serve them so that they can accelerate their growth. And for me, that space is females. And whilst you're cutting people down and belittling them and they're not even leaving the stage with their dignity because of some show that you've got going and some filter, don't forget these are human beings and they're here to get help. So, for me, creating that safe space in Clubhouse was really important. And then also calling them out. But yes, they did say, thank you for that female perspective. And then I did turn around and say, no, it's not a female perspective. I have a right at the table because I've earned my right as an 8-figure entrepreneur. So it was kind of a bit of fun. You get used to it after a while, a bit desensitized.
Yeah, that's it, of course. I know, we do get used to it, don't we, of things like that. But
yeah, it still doesn't make that behavior any better but I think we need to call it out. But then a lot of people say to me, well, why do you even bother being in rooms with people like that? And I say, well, there's still women in the audience, and as long as there are still women in the audience, I will be there to give them a voice because I'm invited on stage. So
yeah, incredible. So how important do you think mentoring is? And I'm going to talk to you in a moment about your mentoring program. And I know I've just signed up to it, so I know you're going to be my new mentor. So I'm super excited about that. So tell us what mentoring means to you and why you decided to create a mentoring program yourself.
Well, actually, I didn't decide to create it. It was actually, I was voluntold, to be honest. So what happened last year in particular was, when everything happened with COVID and everyone needed to do this massive digital transformation, nothing in my life changed. My sales went up, but nothing changed because I've always been remote. I've always done direct to consumer online. Everybody works from wherever they want. I just pick great people I want to work with. I don't care what country they're in, what time zone, or what their commitments are. We just get stuff done. So last year when everything happened, the thing with EO and YPO is that, you will support each other. So whatever, your genius is, you serve other people in the community. So I had so many people reach out to me and say, help me with my digital transformation, which normally I'd be able to help all of them. But it become a point where there was so many of them that I went, actually, you know what? The blueprint that I created of how I scale my businesses to 10 million in 2 years online, I'll give that all to you. It's my IP, but it's taken me 10 years to develop, but have it. My templates, my strategies, because I've tested it and optimized and split test everything and refined it, obviously, at scale. So I said, look, have that. But to be honest, a lot of that stuff that I'm giving them is the same for all their businesses. And the one thing that they need is then, how is this relevant to my business? Yeah. So really they're 80% there with the plug and play. But for me, mentoring it doesn't work without the execution, because especially if I'm going to give you some advice around online and say, this is my mentoring for you, this is what I want you to do. And then you run off and you go, well, that's all well and good, but I have no idea what she was just talking about around how to create that landing page and that funnel and, how to get access to these 50,000 affiliates that she's talking about. Like, go find 50,000 affiliates. Oh, easily said, Tamara. So I think it's really important that the mentoring meets execution. So that's that blueprint. So what I did was I went to my CMO and my CTO and my business partner and said, right, why don't we join forces and do this together? I'll do the 1 hour mentoring, which is so important to have a mentor, and we'll get to that in a minute, mentors versus coaches. Do that one-on-one mentoring, because the number one thing you want to do in business, just don't overcomplicate it. If it's been done before, go find somebody who's done it and ask them how they did it, which is basically what these EO and YPO women were doing. They were asking me, how did you do it? And can we do it tomorrow? Because they needed it, just to save their businesses.
And that's why you pay someone to do it, because they've had the knowledge, you've been there, done it, got the T-shirt.
Exactly. So, so putting them in a group was really powerful because these women, range between 1 and 17 million in turnover. So they think that they're there for me, but what's really beautifully happened is they've all got their own geniuses and they're all helping each other. So for instance, I'm not anti-Amazon, but I'm not really into Amazon. So, there's a lady in the group who's doing 6 mil on Amazon, but no direct to consumer. So she doesn't own her customer, which is really scary. I can see then why she needed my help. Yeah. But she knows Amazon. So if we're trying to get these businesses to 10 mil, I can say to them, okay, well, go see her and ask her to help you on how you can get $1 million, your business and your sales to $1 million in Amazon. And the collective of all of that is what takes you to that point. So it's exciting to do it as a group, but then also to break out into these one-on-one mentoring. And I think there needs to be more of that with women helping each other instead of us all fighting over scraps.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So when does your program start?
So we only do 2 intakes a year, and it's a very small group. So not to get anyone's hopes up, but June is the next kickoff date. But in the absence of that, what I have done is I've put together a heap of content that are more relevant for the women who are wanting to transition into entrepreneurship. I really believe every woman should sell an ethical product online. And I'll tell you why. 97% of women who were recently surveyed, who are conscious consumers, who buy products online, said that they would switch to a female-founded brand if it gave back. So there is a huge amount of customers sitting there saying, hey, this is what I want, serve me. So all you need to do is go and say, here's my product and a few others, and you can easily drop ship and grab other people's products. And, you can start selling to those people and serving those people that have already said, I'm willing to switch, which is absurd. They're not even being serviced. And they don't want multinational. So give them another option.
Massive opportunity, isn't it, for female entrepreneurs, which is
exactly
incredible.
So we created an accelerator program for them to start that. That comes with fortnightly sessions with myself and my CMO, but it's very much just about that leap entrepreneur journey. Like, how do we get you into it? How do we get your side hustle going that's ethical, not ruthless and at all costs and sell, none of that. How do we serve those women that have already identified themselves as wanting to buy something? And then once we've replaced your wage, like what I did 20 years ago, 25 years ago, once we've replaced your wage and you can quit your job, then let's look at how do we create you a product and how do we scale that to become an asset that then you can start buying property from, pulling money out of, and obviously exit at some point or pass on to your family. So that's really the transition.
Yeah, exactly. And which obviously brings me on to legacy. I know you're at the legacy stage of your business. So just tell the audience exactly what stage you're at and what legacy that you wish to leave when you leave this earth. Because I know what mine is, but I'd love to know.
Yeah, I think our values are very aligned. So, for me, when I got to this point, I was like, how can I use my business as a force for good? Very clear on that one. So for me, there was 2 things that really resonate. Number one is business for good. We shouldn't be doing it at the harm of the planet. So how do I, inside my beauty industry and my wellness industry, how do I shift that? So Jeff Hoffman, who is an amazing mentor to me, said there's one thing you can do. It's really simple. It always is very simple. And the one thing that I'm doing there in my legacy is to take back 1% of the industry that women support 100%. So 1% of the industry is $1 billion revenue. We're going to give that to female startups and we're going to buy their brands instead. And every one of those products, if I curate that and make that happen for them, the agreement is that every one of their products has giving embedded. So that's a giving to the United Nations Sustainability Goals. So every time you buy something, we give. That's 10 million impacts to the UN SDGs a year. And this is not going to cost us any out-of-pocket expense. This is just us being conscious and switching from one brand to the other. So that's the first thing I'm doing. And the second thing I'm doing is obviously mentoring and supporting these women to grow their businesses. So we have more female entrepreneurs because there's a massive gap. and I've seen it. I've gone from being in the top 1% by making $1 million and going, okay, there's 25-30% women here, that's okay, to then going to YPO, which is an average turnover of 45 million, and it's less than 10%, and that's CEOs as well. So it's less than 5% for founders, and I've just gone, this is bullshit. But the only way we can fill that gap is by starting with people and saying, take the leap, and I'm here to guide you, and I'm here as your safety net, and here's your community to help and support you. And then how do we get you to 1? Because that's the hardest. But let's fast track that and do it in a couple of years, and then let's get you on the road to 10. And only when we do that will we be able to see the shifts in business that are needed around ethics, around abolishing child labour, all the things that people do that I just don't believe women would do if they were in a position of power. To my heart, I don't think that they would agree with this at a board level, but we need them at that level.
Incredible. And obviously, your book.
Yes, Tamaras War. It is.
Life blend. So tell us a little bit about that, why you actually wrote it and what does it entail?
The reason I get voluntold a lot, as you can tell. That was actually my journals that I was writing on the plane, because I travel to the States normally every 6 weeks, and my mentor would give me topics to journal on around, how do I manage to do all of this, but not at the compromise of myself and my family? And, balance is just fundamentally flawed, because you've got two sides of the scale. You've got family here, yourself here, and you're constantly taking from one to the other. It's a juggling act. You're always feeling out of alignment, and then there's no self. And if you don't put your mask on first, you can't help others. So for me, I said, throw that model out. If we're going to run business our way, we've got to be unapologetic, and we have to blend everything. So what I mean by that is, I work morning hours, so it's LA time, and then from then on in, I'm there for my family. If anyone wants to see me on weekends, out of hours, or wants to talk to me after those set hours that I work, they can expect to have background noise of children, and I will be blending. And if they don't like that, then they can do the meeting without me. But the great thing about that is you give permission to do the same to other people. And so, keeping work and personal life separate, I call bullshit on that. If you're an ethical person, blend it all. My staff come and stay with me for, I just had somebody who's from Sydney. He came and stayed with me for 2 weeks, because we're just like, let's hang out and walk on the beach and just talk about stuff. And, we got so much done. Because
that's right.
But you know what? He doesn't have kids, and he had to deal with, the tantrums and the mornings and it was fun.
It's giving people flexibility, isn't it? And I think that's what people want these days, especially with COVID, the way things that have happened. I think you have to be flexible these days, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Indeed.
The blended, beautiful life. It's chaotic, but it's real. Let's be real, Yeah. For the first time in history, I think there's more people, more reaction, and more engagement on pictures of women without makeup than ever before. So let's do that version in business and start showing them how we do business.
Yeah, absolutely. So how important do you think, obviously, growing a business is, is really challenging. It can be really tough sometimes. How important do you think it is to have a good network around you?
Oh, critical. Absolutely critical. My tribe and access to mentors within that tribe have been the two fundamental things that have shifted things for me, because you do not grow $1 million business or a 10 million plus business on your own. If you're a micromanager, if you're trying to do it all on your own, you're either going to burn out or you're going to crash. So, it's very unsustainable. And not only that, it's not an asset, because you can't exit that business because it's key man dependent. So key person dependent, as they call it. So, for me, having those people around me, I'm not in business alone. I feel like I have a board of 100 advisors that are there that I can speak to at any time, in a forum and a chapter, and it's fun. It's about the journey as well. I mean, I'm in the Hollywood chapter. It's pretty crazy. Last President's Retreat, we went to George Lucas's ranch because someone was making a movie with him. It's like,
wow.
Okay. Yeah. It's going to be fun, right?
Yeah. But at the end of the day, they're just normal people, aren't they? Absolutely. Yeah, and that's, you know, that's what I love about meeting people. I've met loads of famous people, but they're all human beings, and that's what I say. And I think you treat everybody with respect, you know. So what is
They're
next?
not sitting around talking about their cars and their money either. Have you noticed that? They're not just sitting around there talking about that stuff.
No.
And that, I think, is how on Clubhouse you differentiate the difference between somebody who's a wannapreneur and a faker driven by ego versus ones that are real. The ones that are real aren't even saying it. You know,
No,
Lauren is in my rooms all the time and she has this massive yacht. And the only one who ever brings up her massive yacht are all the men. She's like, can we stop talking about my yacht? Like,
yeah, exactly. Okay, so what would you say? Obviously, you've been in business over 20 years. We've all made mistakes. I know I've made zillions of mistakes. What would you say is your biggest mistake that you've made in your career, and how did you learn from it?
There's been lots of, well, I don't call them mistakes. I call them lessons. I think it's a mistake if you repeat the same, if you've learnt the lesson and you repeat the behavior. So just to clarify. But the biggest one's probably being out of values alignment. So I exited a business to the highest bidder because I was a lazy genie. I said I wanted to, you know, get this exit. You know, it was kind of like one of those milestone things that I wanted to tick off. But I didn't look at the values of that company that I was selling them to. I was just interested in the highest exit. And, you know, that ended in an absolute disaster because I didn't end up completing my earn out because the first thing they did was they removed the giving. And that's so important to me. One of my core values is impact. And as soon as they took that out, I was like, are you kidding me? That's like not only a big part of the branding, but also so aligned to this place. And then they started saying, no, you women, you can't have the flexibility to drop off your kids and work from home. And then they completely brought it back to old school. And it killed the business. It was dead in 2 years and it was making nearly 2 more profit. Wow. So, you know, for me, that was probably the biggest lesson because at the end of the day, you're here, a business depends on how you leave it and selling it to the right people or partnering with the right people who take it on to do something even more amazing with it. So I think that was really important to me. And now I don't look at the exit value. I look at who are the companies that I want to strategically align to. So for instance, Unilever, I love everything that they stand for. And I start with that first. I go, right, Unilever, these are the ones that I want to take. You know, I'll take the business to this point and then you plug it into your engine room and take it to the next point, knowing that they'll honor the giving, knowing that they'll do the right thing. So, you know, start with the end in mind. Don't make it price driven just because you want to tick something off your bucket list. Don't be a lazy genie. Don't say, I want to exit that's 8 figures or 9 figures or 10 figures. Say, I want one that's 10 figures, which goes on to be an amazing business that makes triple the impact that I created and leaves a legacy behind and goes to people with aligned values. Like get into detail around what that vision looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of my legacies, what I want to leave is when I leave this earth, that Introbiz will still carry on and I find somebody better than me and who will improve upon it and take it over and take it to another level again. That's, you know, that's what I would love to see. And I think you've got to take, I think all egos have to come away from business and you always have to think of get somebody else because there's so many more people who are far better than me at so many of the different things. And that's what I would like to see is somebody that's better than me, you know?
Yeah, know your bus stop. Know what you know, and don't forget, think about yourself and your own happiness. So, you know, one of the exercises in the book, we talk about what your personal pie is. And I'm unapologetically, half of my pie is work. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. It, you know, fills my bucket on so many levels. You know, I get to speak to you. This does not feel like work. So, you know, at the end of the day, and I'm sure we'll drink wine when we're in person, but
yes.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you know, I know inside my work that being creative, being a problem solver, being a connector and being a deal maker is really my thing. So if I'm not serving, you know, others, if I'm not empowering my team to go on and start their own businesses, if I'm not in that space, then I'm not happy. So when my businesses have got to a certain size and then I've got board members, investors, management teams, reporting, compliance, all this stuff, I'm miserable. So I know I'm past my bus stop. So now I know exactly where I need to exit them. And people go, oh my gosh, you're mad. You could have taken it to the next level and made even more money. But money's not one of my core values.
No.
So just be happy with where you took it to. Know where your bus stop is, and then go, okay, you can deal with the HR, you can deal with the compliance and reporting and the investors, but I'm out.
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
Well, you're done. So last question. What's your goal for the next 3 to 5 years? What's next for Tamara?
I want to take back that 1% on behalf of the women and give it back to them. I'm very clear on that. I want to partner with somebody like Unilever to make it from 1 to 5%, and make my 10 million impacts a year and create 10,000 female entrepreneurs in the process. That is my goal. So nothing little. Nothing.
No, I always say go big, go global, or go home.
Absolutely. And there's no excuse not to with digital. But you know what's really beautiful about that? My actual end goal is at the end of the 5 years, I have created a model for how to do business online that supports female founders and that gives back and has giving embedded. So if I can create that like a blueprint for beauty and wellness, I don't see why that can't apply to home daycare or to, the food industry, the snack industry, or there's so many industries that blueprint could, if I can show that it's a successful model and it's profitable, but it gives back. If we can show that, then I would love people to go, okay, I'm going to rip that off and do it in my industry. That would be just fantastic.
Oh, amazing. So how can people reach out to you, obviously, for your mentorship program? I know, obviously, I'm involved now, ladies and gents, so you can reach out to me and I will always connect you to Tamara. I love what she stands for. It's been amazing having you on. But how can they reach out to you, Tamara?
Yeah, certainly. So go to our website, Beuseil. So it's BEUSAIL.com. My email is obviously tamara.loehr@Beuseil. So reach out to me personally. I'm not one of these people who puts barriers in between me and women who want to succeed. And, fill in an application so I have context. And regardless of, we really need to determine if you're a startup and just needing to take the plunge or wanting to do the mentorship program with these amazing women. So once I know that, then we can have the conversation that's needed to shift you into that. But I give every woman who applies my time, at least half an hour, because if I can just give you one thing that pushes you forward, that makes me really happy when I turn up to events and someone comes up and says, that conversation we had 3 years ago, guess what? I'm now at 1 million. Or guess what? I took the plunge. That is the coolest feeling in the world.
Yeah, I know. And I love that as well. I love when I put people together or I connect them or I introduce them and then the magic is happening, or they're collaborating, they set up a company together. That really melts my heart, when collaborations and good connections come together and they take action and do business, So it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Tamara, as always. I love spending time with you. I'm super excited about the mentoring program in June. Really looking forward to it. Let's take this business to the next level. So you, ladies and gents, if you want to take your business to the next level, you want to align yourself with an amazing female entrepreneur like Tamara. She is an awesome woman, and hence that's why I've bought into her. Please reach out to me or reach out to Tamara. It's been amazing having you on, Tamara. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. And we need to do that for you, by the way.
I'll speak to you soon.
Take care, sweetheart. Thanks again.
Bye. Bye.